The space station floated like a giant metal island in the black ocean of space. Millions of travelers passed through its gates every single day, yet no one ever noticed the quiet man who cleaned the floors. His name was Daniel. He was a janitor, a human among thousands of different species. He wore a simple gray uniform, carried a mop, and lived a life that most people ignored. Daniel moved slowly down the main corridor. Lights above flickered in blue and white. Alien voices echoed all around. Tall creatures with shining eyes barged past him. Merchants shouted their prices. Guards barked orders. No one cared about the janitor pushing his cleaning cart. He had grown used to this. He never expected thanks. His job was not about glory. It was about survival. He needed the pay to eat, to keep a tiny room on the lower deck, to live another day in this cold station. Yet inside his heart he still held a spark of kindness. That evening, while he scrubbed near the docking bay, Daniel heard a loud crash. A metal case had slipped from someone's grip, scattering strange glowing objects across the floor. The crowd laughed and walked away. No one wanted to help. The owner of the case knelt quickly, his hands shaking. He was tall, his skin dark silver, his clothes simple but strangely fine. His eyes glowed faintly blue. He looked like an alien traveler, but there was something unusual about him. Daniel did not think twice. He put down his mop, bent down, and began to gather the scattered objects. Some rolled far under benches. Some bounced dangerously close to the loading rails. Daniel's fingers moved fast, picking them up one by one. The alien looked at him surprised. "You help me?" he asked in a deep but calm voice. Daniel nodded. "Yeah, no problem. Just don't want you losing your things," he said with a faint smile. Together they put the glowing pieces back into the metal case. Daniel shut the lid and pushed it toward the alien. "There, all safe," he said. Wiping sweat from his forehead, the alien froze. He stared at the janitor as if he had seen something impossible. His glowing eyes narrowed. He tilted his head like someone who had never expected such behavior. "Why?" the alien asked quietly. Daniel blinked. "Why what? Why do you help me?" Daniel shrugged. "Because you needed help, that's all." Anyone would do the same. But in truth, Daniel knew not everyone would. In this station, most looked the other way. People only cared about profit, status, or their own safety. Kindness was rare. The alien closed the case slowly, his long fingers tapping the lid. "You are different," he whispered. Daniel chuckled awkwardly. "Nah, I'm just a janitor, nothing special." He pushed his cart again, ready to leave, but the alien kept staring. As Daniel walked away, he could feel the weight of those glowing blue eyes following him. Something about that moment felt strange, like he had stepped into a story far larger than himself. He returned to his cleaning, but his mind replayed the event. The silver-skinned alien's voice still echoed. "Why do you help me?" The question bothered him. Why wouldn't he? What was so shocking about helping? Meanwhile, in the shadows of the docking bay, the alien stood silent, his case clutched tightly. Travelers hurried past, unaware of what had just happened. That alien was not just another traveler. He was a billionaire from a distant empire, a being who owned fleets of ships, planets of resources, corporations that stretched across star systems. He had met countless humans before, but none had treated him with simple kindness. Most feared him. Others desired his wealth. But this janitor treated him like an ordinary soul. He whispered to himself, "Strange human. I must know more." Back in the janitor's quarters, Daniel washed his hands, sat on the edge of his narrow bed, and sighed. He thought the day was over. Just another day of sweeping, mopping, and being ignored. Little did he know that his small act of kindness had planted a seed that would grow into something that would shake the stars. The alien billionaire made a call in secret, his voice low and commanding. "Find me everything about the human janitor." "Daniel," he said to his assistant across the galaxy, and so, while Daniel lay in his room staring at the cracked ceiling, unaware of the storm coming toward him, his life had already begun to change forever. The stars outside glittered like silent witnesses. The space station hummed with life, but hidden within its endless noise. A bond had been formed, fragile yet powerful, all because a janitor chose to pick up what others ignored. All because he chose kindness. But the space station never truly slept. Its halls buzzed with endless footsteps. Engines hummed in the distance. Neon lights flickered like restless stars. Yet for Daniel the janitor, life stayed the same. He pushed his mop, cleaned the stains, and vanished into the background. But after that night at the docking bay, something had changed. Daniel could feel it. People who had never noticed him before now looked his way. Not with kindness, but with suspicion, voices followed him, whispers that curled like smoke in the dark corners of the station. Is that him? The human? One alien hissed, "Yes, the janitor." The one he looked at. Another muttered. Daniel turned his head, but the crowd shifted too fast, faces disappeared. Only shadows remained. He shook it off. Maybe it was his imagination. Maybe he was just tired, yet the feeling returned again and again. Eyes watching. Unseen footsteps behind him. Laughter cut short when he entered a room. The station felt colder now, heavier. Daniel's co-workers noticed as well, though not in a good way. In the break room, 2 guards smirked at him. "Careful, janitor. Looks like you made a powerful friend," one said. "Or a powerful enemy," the other laughed. Spilling drink on the table, Daniel frowned. "What are you talking about?" The guards only shrugged, grinning. Everyone knows whispers travel fast here. Confused, Daniel left, his mop bucket squeaking as it rolled down the corridor. He muttered to himself. Whispers? About me, that makes no sense, but he was wrong, far above his simple quarters. The silver-skinned alien billionaire sat in a private chamber, staring at screens filled with human data. Daniel's name, age, job history, every detail displayed like pages of an open book. "He is ordinary," the alien's assistant said. Voice sharp and cold, "Why waste time on him?" The alien leaned closer to the screen, his glowing eyes narrowing. "Ordinary is an illusion. I saw something others did not. I want to know everything. Every step he takes, every word he speaks." Meanwhile, Daniel's nights grew restless. The hum of the walls no longer comforted him. Shadows moved where they should not. Once while returning from cleaning duty, he swore he saw a tall figure in a cloak following him. But when he turned, the hall was empty. He began to wonder if helping that alien had been a mistake. Kindness was free, but now it felt costly. The station gossip spread faster than fuel through pipes. Merchants whispered of a human who had caught the eye of someone important. Dock workers spoke of secret meetings. Guards joked about the janitor being a spy. Even the cooks at the canteen watched him too long. Daniel's once invisible life had become a stage, and he did not know why. One evening, as Daniel swept the main corridor, a small note slipped from nowhere, landing near his feet. No one around, no sound, just a folded piece of black paper, hands trembling. He opened it. Inside were 3 words written in glowing blue ink. "Meet me alone." Daniel's heart raced. He looked around. The corridor was empty. Only the hum of air vents answered him. He shoved the note into his pocket and tried to focus, but his mind spun. Meet me? Who? Why? That night, sleep refused to come. He lay awake staring at the cracked ceiling of his small room. The note burned like fire in his pocket. Finally, he stood, grabbed his jacket, and left. The note had no time, no place, but something in his heart guided him back to the docking bay. The place where it all began. The place where he had helped a stranger pick up a broken case. The bay was quiet, ships slept in their ports. Machines hissed softly, and there he was, the silver-skinned alien, standing tall, shadows wrapping around him like a cloak. His glowing eyes fixed on Daniel. Daniel froze, fear and curiosity battling inside him. He had expected maybe a prank, maybe danger, but not this, not him. The alien spoke softly, his voice deep and steady. "You came," Daniel swallowed. "You asked, so here I am." The alien tilted his head, studying the human like a rare artifact. "Strange, you obey without promise, without reward." Daniel frowned. "Look, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just a janitor. I didn't mean any harm, I just helped because you needed it." The alien stepped closer, his presence heavy yet calm. "No one has helped me without reason, not in years, not in lifetimes, but you are different." Daniel shook his head. "I'm not different, I'm ordinary, like anyone else." The alien's glowing eyes narrowed. "No, you are not." The silence stretched, shadows thick around them. And then the alien's voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "I want to see what kind of human you truly are. But be warned, if you walk this path, others will come for you. They already watch from the dark." Daniel felt his chest tighten. His mouth dry, he glanced at the shadows, remembering the whispers, the footsteps, the eyes that never blinked. The alien leaned closer, his words echoing like thunder inside Daniel's head. "Decide, janitor, stay in the safety of shadows, or step forward into the fire of truth." Daniel stood frozen, caught between fear and curiosity, between the life he knew and the unknown ahead. And in that moment, The shadows around the docking bay seemed to whisper louder. Voices unseen. Carrying secrets and threats, watching both man and alien, waiting for the choice that would shape everything. The docking bay lights flickered as Daniel stood frozen, the silver-skinned alien towering before him. Shadows stretched across the floor, long and sharp, the silence pressed down heavy. Only the hum of machines filled the air. Daniel's hands trembled at his sides. He wanted to run, yet his feet stayed planted. Something about the alien's glowing eyes held him still. They carried weight. Like the weight of stars, the alien spoke, his deep voice rolling like distant thunder. "You still do not know who I am." Daniel swallowed, his throat dry. "You're just a traveler, right? Someone passing through." The alien's lips curved into a faint, almost bitter smile. "Traveler, yes, but not ordinary." He lifted the metal case Daniel had once helped him with. Its surface shimmered with strange patterns. Then with a quiet click it opened. Inside lay rows of glowing crystals, each pulsing like a beating heart. Daniel blinked, overwhelmed by the light. "These are not simple objects," the alien said. "Each one can power a starship for a century. Each one can buy a city. Each one can topple an empire," Daniel gasped, his chest tight. "Why are you showing me this? I shouldn't even be near something like that." The alien's voice dropped lower. "Because you helped me without knowing. You helped me when I was most vulnerable." He closed the case, the glow fading into silence. His silver skin caught the dim lights, sharp like steel. "I am not a simple traveler. I am known across 12 systems. My name is Zirin, heir of the Rylox Consortium." The name meant nothing to Daniel, but the way the alien said it, the way his voice carried pride and weight, told him it was not just a name, it was power. Zirin stepped closer, his tall frame casting Daniel in shadow. "To many I am a ruler, to others I am an enemy, and to most I am untouchable." He paused, his glowing eyes piercing. "Yet you touched my life with something no one has given in years." "Kindness." Daniel's heart raced. He laughed nervously. "Look, I didn't mean anything big, I just helped, that's all. You don't owe me anything." Zirin tilted his head, studying him. "That is why it matters. You expected nothing, you demanded nothing, and yet you gave." The words echoed. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck, uncomfortable under the weight of the alien's gaze. "If you're really that powerful, then why disguise yourself? Why hide in simple clothes?" For the first time, Zirin's expression softened, almost weary. "Because power is a prison. Everywhere I go, people bow. They flatter, they fear, but none are real. None see me as anything but wealth and control. So I walk in shadows, I disguise myself. To see the truth of the worlds I rule." Daniel frowned. "And the truth is, people ignore you unless they want something." Zirin nodded slowly. "Except you." The silence between them stretched. Heavy and strange, Daniel felt his chest tighten. Part of him wanted to step back into his small, safe life. Part of him wanted to step forward into this storm he could not understand. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed from the far side of the bay. Harsh and sharp, Daniel turned. 3 tall figures in black armor emerged from the shadows, their faces hidden behind glass masks. Zirin's glowing eyes darkened, his jaw set. "They follow me everywhere," he muttered. Daniel's voice shook. "Who are they?" "Agents of rival houses," Zirin said. "They do not want me near you. They do not want me touched by human hands." The armored figures stopped, their voices metallic. "Leave the human, Zirin. He is beneath you." Daniel froze, fear spreading through his veins. He wanted to protest, but Zirin raised his hand, silencing him. "No," Zirin said firmly, his voice like iron. "This human is under my protection." The agents laughed, cold and cruel. "A janitor? Your empire will laugh at you. Your enemies will use this weakness, all because you cannot ignore a filthy human." Zirin's glowing eyes blazed brighter. His silver skin shimmered like molten metal. "He is not weakness, he is proof. Proof that there is still something real left in this galaxy." Daniel's knees wobbled, sweat on his palms. He wanted to run, but something in Zirin's words struck him. They weren't about power. They weren't about wealth. They were about trust. The armored figures stepped back into the shadows, but their parting words echoed. "You will regret this. Both of you." The silence returned, heavier than before. Daniel finally spoke, his voice low. "I didn't ask for this. I don't belong in your world." Zirin turned to him, his eyes softening. "And that is exactly why you belong, Daniel. Because you are not blinded by it." Daniel shook his head, overwhelmed. I'm just a janitor, I clean floors. I have nothing. Zirin placed a hand on the metal case, his voice steady. Sometimes the ones with nothing to gain have the most to give. Daniel's heart pounded. His mind a storm. Part of him screamed to walk away. Part of him whispered to stay. The alien billionaire took one final step closer, his shadow merging with Daniel's. You helped me once without knowing who I was. Now you know, will you still help me? The question hung heavy in the air. Like a blade waiting to fall, Daniel's mouth opened. But no words came, only silence. Only the sound of his racing heart, and above them, hidden in the rafters of the docking bay, more unseen eyes watched, recording every moment, waiting for the answer that would decide the future. The space station pulsed with restless life. Yet in the quiet corners of the docking bay, Daniel stood trapped between fear and curiosity. The silver-skinned alien, Zirin, had revealed himself as more than a traveler, more than a wealthy stranger. He was power itself wrapped in shadows. Now Zirin's glowing eyes fixed on Daniel with unsettling calm. You helped me once without knowing my name, he said, voice low and steady. But now you know. Will you help me again, even knowing the risk? Daniel swallowed hard. His hand shook against the handle of his mop bucket. I'm just a janitor, he muttered. What could I possibly do for someone like you? Zirin leaned closer, his presence heavy like a storm. Sometimes the smallest pieces decide the largest games. Daniel, you may think yourself unimportant, but I see value in what others ignore. Daniel wanted to laugh, to dismiss it. Yet the memory of armored figures hissing from the shadows still burned in his mind. Enemies already knew his face, his name, and that made him a target. Zirin opened the shimmering case again. The crystals inside pulsed with soft blue light. These are worth more than worlds. Yet in my hands they are also chains. Rivals circle me like vultures. They want me gone. They want my empire to fall, and now, because of you, they will strike harder. Daniel's stomach twisted. Because of me? I didn't ask for this, I just helped you pick up your things. Zirin's lips curved faintly, and that simple act changed everything. A gesture so small. Yet it revealed something they fear. Daniel frowned. Fear? Of me? Not of you alone, Zirin corrected, his voice like steel. But of what you represent. A human without power, showing loyalty without reason. It breaks their rules. It threatens their games. If I trust you, it means their control can be undone. The words sank heavy. Daniel looked down at his calloused hands, hands that had held nothing but a mop for years. And now those same hands seemed caught in a war too vast to imagine. Zirin closed the case with a sharp click, his eyes burning brighter. I offer you a choice. Daniel, remain in your shadows or step into my world, stand by my side, and face what comes, but know this, once chosen, there is no return. Enemies will hunt you. Betrayal will stalk you. You will risk your life. Daniel's heart pounded. He felt the pull of safety on one side and the call of something unknown on the other. He could walk away, return to his quiet room, his mop, his invisibility, or he could step forward and accept a path that would swallow him whole. Before he could answer, a sharp sound echoed through the bay. Metallic footsteps approached, not hidden this time, bold and loud. Daniel's blood ran cold as a group of armored figures marched into view, their black suits gleaming under the lights. Weapons at their sides, the leader's voice was cold. Step away from the human, Zirin. This game has gone too far. Zirin stood tall, his silver skin glinting. You think I will abandon him because you command it? The leader's visor reflected Daniel's pale face. A janitor, nothing more. He will drag you down, your empire will laugh, your enemies will celebrate, leave him, or suffer the consequences. Daniel's knees shook, sweat dripped from his forehead. He wanted to scream, to deny it all, but Zirin's hand lifted, steady and unshaken. No, he stays, my choice is made. The armored figures stiffened. The leader's voice sharpened. Then you are a fool, and this human will die for it. The tension cracked like lightning. But before weapons could rise, Zirin's eyes blazed brighter. The air around him shimmered with strange energy. A ripple pushed through the bay, forcing the agents back a step. Leave, Zirin commanded, his voice thundering. Tell your masters that this human stands under my shield. The agents retreated, but their laughter echoed cold and mocking. Then the hunt begins. The silence that followed pressed on Daniel's chest. He gasped for breath, gripping his mop handle like a lifeline. What have you done? He whispered. Zirin turned to him. Calm yet fierce, I have bound your fate to mine. The deal is sealed. Daniel's heart sank. I didn't agree. You did when you came here, Zirin cut him off. His tone sharp. You stepped into the fire, and now the fire will test you. Daniel stared at him, fear and anger mixing. I can't fight. I can't face enemies in armor. I'm nobody. Zirin's eyes softened, just slightly. And that is why you are chosen. Because you do not seek power. Because you still hold something purer than all of them. Loyalty without greed, courage without armor. The words struck deep. Daniel felt torn open, yet strangely he could not deny them. He had helped simply because it was right. No reward, no plan, only instinct, and somehow that had become dangerous. Zirin stepped closer, his voice low and final. From this moment forward, you are no longer invisible, Daniel. You walk with me, and every choice you make will echo across stars. Daniel's throat tightened, his voice cracked. And if I refuse? Zirin's gaze burned into him. Then you will die alone in the shadows, hunted by those who already marked you. There is no escape, only paths, one with me, or one against the dark. Daniel closed his eyes, his breath heavy. He could still feel the weight of the mop in his hand, the smell of cleaning solution on his clothes, the life he knew slipping away, and when he opened them again, he saw only the silver alien standing before him, waiting, patient but unyielding. Daniel whispered. Then I choose to stand. Zirin's expression did not change, but his eyes glowed brighter. His voice carried power. Then welcome to my world, Janitor. The dangerous deal is sealed. Above them, unseen watchers recorded every word, every gesture, shadows moving with silent purpose. The galaxy had just gained a new player, and he was the last one anyone expected. The following day, Daniel's world no longer felt like his own. He had spoken words he never thought he would say. He had chosen to stand with Zirin, the alien billionaire whose very name could shake empires. Now that choice carried him forward into a life of danger he had never asked for. When Daniel woke in his small metal room on the lower deck, he found 2 guards waiting outside his door. Their armor bore the crest of the Rylox Consortium. Zirin's crest, one guard spoke without emotion. You are summoned. Daniel followed, his heart pounding. He expected punishment, maybe even death. But instead the guards led him through gleaming corridors he had never entered before, upward through levels of the station that janitors were never allowed to see. At the highest docking platform, a massive starship waited. Its surface shone silver with flowing patterns like liquid light. It was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. Majestic and silent, the ship itself seemed alive. Inside, the walls pulsed with faint blue energy. Alien symbols glowed softly. Daniel's eyes widened as he stepped onto carpets richer than anything he had ever touched. The air smelled fresh, clean. Nothing like the oily vents of his home level. Zirin stood in the grand hall, tall and regal, his glowing eyes brighter than ever. Welcome, Daniel, he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. This ship is mine, and now for a time, it is yours as well. Daniel shook his head, still dazed. I don't belong here. This place is for kings, not janitors. Zirin's lips curved faintly. That is why you belong here. You are not blinded by it. Before Daniel could answer, more figures entered the hall. Tall aliens with silver cloaks, jeweled collars, their eyes sharp and cold. They looked Daniel up and down with disgust. One of them scoffed. This is the human? This cleaner? Zirin's expression hardened. Yes, this is Daniel. The one who showed kindness when no one else would? The aliens laughed. Sharp and cruel. You insult us, Zirin. To bring this dirt into our halls, surely you test us with a joke? Daniel felt his face burn. Shame mixed with anger. He wanted to vanish. But Zirin's voice thundered, silence. He stands here because I chose him. And my choice is law. The room fell quiet, but the looks of hatred remained. Daniel realized then that this was no simple welcome. This was a test. Later, Zirin guided Daniel through the ship, explaining, trust is not given freely. Even to me they will test you, they will watch you, and you must endure if you falter. They will turn on both of us. Daniel clenched his fists. I'm no warrior, I'm no genius, how can I pass their tests? Zirin's glowing eyes softened. By being what you already are. True, the tests began quickly first. Daniel was asked to answer questions before a council of advisors. They twisted their words like blades, trying to confuse him. What is loyalty? One demanded, what is weakness? Another hissed. Daniel's simple answers made them sneer. Yet Zirin watched with calm approval. Second, Daniel was given a task, to repair a leaking system deep within the ship's engine chambers. He had no tools except his janitor's mop handle and a small kit. The engineers mocked him, but Daniel used what he knew, patching the leak with clever hands. Not perfect, but enough to hold. The sneers turned to silence. Finally, the hardest trial came. Daniel was brought into a vast chamber filled with illusions. Lights and shadows formed monstrous shapes. Voices whispered lies. Zycran will betray you. You are nothing, you are alone. Daniel shook as the visions swirled, his breath shallow, but he remembered the moment in the docking bay, when he had helped without reason, when he had been himself, and he shouted into the shadows, I may be nothing, but I choose to stand. The illusions cracked and vanished. Leaving the room silent, the watching advisors exchanged glances, some frowning, some strangely quiet. Zycran entered the chamber, his eyes glowing brighter. You endured, he said simply. That is enough. But before Daniel could even catch his breath, alarms blared through the ship. Lights flashed red. Guards shouted orders. Chaos spread. Daniel spun in panic. What's happening? One guard yelled. Attack! Intruders on board! The grand hall erupted as blasts shook the walls. Zycran's advisors scattered in fear. Guards rushed forward. And through the smoke, a shadow moved. Tall, fast, carrying a weapon meant to kill. Daniel froze, the assassin's eyes locked on Zycran. A silent predator ready to strike, everyone else too far, too slow. Only Daniel stood close enough. He had no gun, no blade. Only his mop handle still clutched in his hand. His heart thundered, his instincts screamed. Yet something deeper pushed him forward. In that split second, the janitor raised his mop handle like a spear, stepping between Zycran and the assassin. The clash that followed shook not only the hall but the fragile trust of an empire. The grand hall shook as alarms screamed. Red lights painted the silver walls like blood. Guards rushed into formation, yet the shadow of the assassin cut through them like smoke. Daniel stood frozen, mop handle clenched in trembling hands. The assassin was fast, too fast. His black armor glinted under the flashing lights. His blade hummed with deadly energy. It was aimed straight for Zycran's heart. The advisors shrieked and fled, their jeweled cloaks dragging across the polished floor. But Zycran did not move. His glowing eyes remained fixed on the attacker, calm yet fierce. Daniel's body moved before his mind could catch up. He lunged, raising the mop handle, wood against metal. The clash rang loud, sparks flew. The blade slid across the handle, slicing it almost in half. But it gave Zycran just enough time to step aside. The assassin hissed through his mask. Pathetic human. His voice metallic. You think you can stand in my way? Daniel's knees shook, sweat rolled down his face. But he held the broken mop like a weapon. I don't think. I just know I won't let you kill him. The assassin's blade swung again. Daniel ducked clumsily, the heat of the weapon brushing his hair. He stumbled, barely keeping balance, yet his stubborn eyes stayed locked on the enemy. Guards finally surged forward, firing bursts of blue energy, but the assassin moved like water, weaving through blasts, striking down 2 guards with one swing. The others fell back in fear. Zycran raised his hand. Silver energy rippled through the hall, a shield forming around him. Yet the assassin pressed harder, his strikes pounding against it like thunder. Daniel scrambled across the floor, grabbing a fallen guard's metal rod. Heavier than his mop but stronger, he gripped it with shaking hands, heart pounding. Then something strange happened. The assassin's eyes shifted toward Daniel, ignoring the glowing shield, ignoring the alien guards. You, he hissed. The human, you are the weakness. Daniel froze. His chest tight weakness, the word echoed in his mind. But before he could doubt himself, Zycran's voice thundered across the hall. No, he is the strength. The assassin roared and charged. Daniel raised the rod clumsily. The impact shook his arms, sparks burned his skin, but he held, teeth gritted, every muscle screaming. With a desperate shove, he swung wildly. Not skilled, not trained, but filled with stubborn courage. The rod smashed against the assassin's mask. A crack split across the glass. The enemy stumbled back with a growl. The guards seized their chance. Energy blast rained down, forcing the assassin into retreat. Smoke filled the air. Shadows swallowed him, and then he was gone, vanishing into the corridors of the ship. Silence returned, heavy and broken. The advisors slowly crept back, their faces pale, their eyes wide. They stared not at Zycran but at Daniel, the janitor who had stood in the path of death with nothing but a stick. Zycran stepped forward, placing a hand on Daniel's shoulder, his voice low but strong. You faced the shadow when others fled. You have earned your place not by skill, not by power, but by courage. Daniel's chest heaved, his hand still trembled. I just did what I had to, he whispered. Zirin's glowing eyes softened. That is what makes it rare. But not everyone was pleased. One advisor sneered. This human endangers us all. The assassin came because of him. His presence is a curse, others muttered agreement. Suspicion thick in the air. Daniel felt their hatred burn into him. He wanted to defend himself, to shout. But before he could, Zirin raised his voice, sharp and commanding. Enough, he is under my protection. Any who speak against him speak against me. The hall fell silent. No one dared challenge, yet Daniel could still feel their stares. Daggers of mistrust in every glance later. As the ship drifted in silence, Daniel sat alone in a quiet chamber, staring at his blistered hands. The broken mop still lying beside him, his mind replayed the assassin's words. You are the weakness. Zirin entered quietly, his silver skin glowing faintly under the soft lights. You doubt yourself, he said simply. Daniel sighed. I'm not strong, I almost died. Anyone else could have done better. Zirin shook his head slowly. Anyone else would have run. Courage is not the absence of fear, Daniel. It is the choice to stand even when fear consumes you. Daniel looked up, meeting the alien's glowing eyes. But what if they're right? What if I put you in danger just by being here? Zirin's voice hardened. You did not bring the danger? Daniel, the danger was always here. You simply revealed who among us would face it. Before Daniel could reply, the door slid open. One of Zirin's closest advisors stepped inside, his face pale, his voice shaking. My lord, the assassin left a message. He held a small black shard glowing with faint red script. Zirin took it, his eyes narrowing as he read. Then he looked at Daniel. It is as I feared, this was not a lone attack. It was a warning. They mean to strike again, and harder. Daniel's stomach twisted, his voice unsteady. Against me? Zirin shook his head. Against both of us. Because they cannot understand why someone with nothing stands beside someone with everything. The chamber grew quiet. The ship hummed like a heartbeat. Outside the stars drifted cold and endless. And in that silence, Daniel realized something. His small act of kindness had grown into a war. The shadows had marked him. Betrayal lurked in every corner. And the galaxy itself seemed to watch, waiting to see if a janitor could truly stand in the fire. The ship drifted through the endless sea of stars. Yet inside, the air was heavy with tension. Daniel sat quietly in the chamber, his hands wrapped in bandages, his mind replaying the battle with the assassin again and again. Every swing, every spark, every whisper that called him weak. But outside his small corner, the galaxy had already changed. News traveled faster than light. Stories spread across 12 systems. A human janitor stood against death to protect Zirin. Some laughed, calling it a lie. Others whispered with awe. A few feared what it meant. In the great hall of the ship, Zirin stood before a gathering of nobles and leaders. Their jeweled collars shone like fire, their eyes sharp with suspicion. They wanted answers. They wanted explanations. One elder alien raised his voice. You shame us, Zirin. To place your trust in a human servant. To make him your shield, this is weakness, another hissed. The assassin came because of him, more will come. You endanger the consortium itself. Zirin's glowing eyes blazed brighter. His silver skin shimmered like liquid steel. His voice thundered across the chamber. No, you are blind. You think wealth is strength. You think power is trust, but when shadows fell, who stood with me? Not you, not your armies, but him, murmurs spread. Disbelief mixing with unease. Daniel stood at the edge of the hall. His heart pounding, he wanted to vanish, yet he could feel every eye burning into him. Zirin stepped forward, his voice steady. You call him nothing, a janitor, invisible, unworthy. Yet his courage saved me. His kindness reminded me of truth, and for that, he is more than you. The words struck like lightning, the hall erupted in shouts. Some furious, some shaken, some silent in thought. Daniel stood frozen, his throat dry. He had never wanted this. Never wanted to be seen, yet here he was, thrust into the center of a storm. Later, in the quiet of the observation deck, Daniel stared out at the stars, his reflection pale in the glass. Zirin joined him, silent for a time, then spoke softly. You fear what you have become. Daniel sighed. I don't belong here. I never did. I clean floors. I fix leaks. I'm not a hero. Zirin shook his head slowly, his glowing eyes calm. Heroes are not born from crowns or riches. Daniel, they are born from choices, and you chose kindness when no one else would. Daniel turned, frustration boiling. But what if I fail? What if I can't keep standing? What if the next assassin wins? Zirin's voice deepened, steady as stone. Then you will fall with honor, but if you never try, if you hide, then you will live as a shadow forever, and shadows change nothing. The words settled heavy in Daniel's chest. He remembered the night in the docking bay. The spilled case, the simple choice to bend down and help. It had felt meaningless then. Yet now it echoed across galaxies. Days later, another gathering was held, but this time not in secret halls, it was public, streamed across systems. Leaders, merchants, soldiers, and even ordinary workers watched. Zirin stood tall, Daniel at his side. The alien billionaire raised his voice so all could hear. Today I declare this human not as servant, not as pawn, but as ally. His act of kindness changed me. His courage saved me, and his loyalty shames the greed of kings, gasps echoed. Messages lit up the network, some furious, some cheering, some laughing in disbelief, yet the truth was spoken, and it could not be undone. Daniel's face burned. He wanted to shrink away, but then he noticed something in the crowd. Workers, cleaners, guards, ordinary people, their eyes wide, their faces lit with hope for the first time. They saw someone like themselves standing in a place of power. One voice shouted from the crowd, "Human! What did you do to deserve this?" Daniel hesitated, then spoke, his voice simple, steady. "I did nothing, I only helped because it was the right thing to do." The hall grew quiet. The words hung heavy. They were not grand, not poetic, but they were true, and truth carried farther than any jewel. From that day things began to change. Not instantly, not perfectly, but change had begun. Whispers spread not of wealth or betrayal, but of kindness, of courage, of how even the smallest act could shake the powerful. Daniel still cleaned floors sometimes, not because he had to, but because it reminded him of who he was, a simple man, ordinary, invisible once, yet now part of something greater. Zirin remained by his side, no longer alone in his empire of shadows. Together they faced enemies. Together they endured doubt, but always, always. They remembered the night when kindness lit the fire, and in the endless sea of stars, stories traveled farther than ships, one story above all, of a janitor who picked up what others ignored, and in doing so, changed not only an alien billionaire's life, but the fate of worlds. Because sometimes the greatest power is not wealth, not armies, not fear. Sometimes the greatest power is kindness,